when you make your enemies start your G. Beef is when you roll no less than 30 deep. Beef is when I see you. Guaranteed to be.
Hi, and no, this is not a podcast about making beef and the impact Biggie Smalls had in our lives. All the other podcasts seem to have intro music, so since I'm new at this, I'm going to go with the flow. But welcome to Same. Thanks for listening and having interest in this project. However you got here, I'm thankful for your support. If you haven't read my mission statement for this podcast yet, it's in a time period where we are encouraged to embrace individuality and address differences, Same is a platform for all individuals to tell their stories that can connect us by breaking down silos and reminding us what it means to be human. I wanted to take the time before the segments of this podcast really get started to explain what this all means, the project, where my inspiration came from, and what I hope to truly achieve. So here it goes. There are many factors and steps that led up to the actualization of Same, mostly personal events that led to questions. It starts when I was having a very low week. I wanted to crawl into this hole and not face the people around me. Even having a basic conversation was hard to hold. I felt like if I opened my mouth to speak, I would tell people how I was really feeling, but every bone in my body felt like I was burdening those around me, even those I knew cared about me and would want to help me with the load I was carrying. Around the same time, I was still meeting or talking to friends and family, whether they were next door, in a different part of the world, or a city away. These conversations I had with others, I believe not coincidentally, were heavy conversations. People were opening up to me about deeper personal issues, troubles, worries, and they weighed upon me heavily. I wanted to share about my own personal experiences and express how I went through something similar or understood what they were going through. But I was scared. Why was I scared? I then read in a New York Times article, which I'm still trying to figure out how people cite these articles and quotes flawlessly into their podcasts and their writing, but it was about how open we are sometimes about things like social media or sharing our opinions, sharing this post, posting that pic, going out with these people. But we are really hesitant to open up and connect with the people that we meet up with or quote-unquote are friends with. I kept questioning, why was this a thing? We all know labels have always been a thing. In much more severe terms throughout history, but we all know they still exist. With the severity of these labels, there have been revolutions, civil rights movements, women's rights movements, and I, along with I'm sure a lot of other people, feel like there still needs to be revolutions today. And one of them, which this podcast hopes to ignite, is the revolution of connectedness. We are, in my opinion, and speaking for my own generation, in a time where being different is more accepted than before, or American freedom is a progress that is seen as more achieved than needs to be achieved. Technology has become a tool for communication and messages. So think about the possibilities or the power of this, in any direction that it goes, if we can feel connected to those society has labeled separate, stigmatized, or different in our heads. Yes, we have achieved a lot for equality or fairness for the grander political segments of society, but what about in our own individual actions and perspectives of the person who is in a different club or a different town or a different major? Ranging from big silos to seemingly small ones, this podcast is working to shift these perspectives, or at least show how everyone has unique backgrounds, stories, experiences that can shed a light on our own stories to make us feel understood. Like, hey, this person is from here, does this, looks like this, but she went through the same thing as me, or she has a story that can help me. My last question, on more of the personal side, was when I asked myself, what am I really good at? What am I really passionate about? And not in that interview bullshitty sense where you're passionate about a long and prosperous career and here's my 5-year plan kind of way. I realized for myself it wasn't about my major or how much I didn't want to study for that gen ed class or how much that big paying job didn't excite me or trying to make it in social media or music or any of those things. I found that for me, it was about connecting with people. At the end of the day, what made me feel accomplished was if I had a real conversation with someone, if I met someone new, or if someone opened up to me. Not if I got that good test grade or made it in the library for more than 5 hours, which has yet to happen. As I'm editing my first episode, I was having trouble with, is this going to come across one-sided, controversially? Is this completely overplayed and cliche? And honestly, I think it might be. But that's fine, because while I was aggressively asking my friends these questions and already feeling weak for second-guessing this project, I had a friend who came up to me one late night at the computer lab while I was all coffee shaken and worried about where this was going. He referenced the great and ever-relevant Steve Harvey. He told me about Steve's analogy about how you need to jump off the cliff not knowing if your parachute is going to open up in order to really live. To successfully quote this via the internet, the only way for you to soar is you gotta jump. You gotta take that gift that's packed away on your back. You gotta jump off that cliff and pull that cord. That gift opens up and provides the soar. Beautifully cliche. Thank you, Steve Harvey, and shout out to my anonymous friend. So for me, I'm jumping off with this podcast and attempting to identify and use a gift. And hopefully through this platform, people can do the same or come one step closer to figuring it out, no matter what the direction of their stories is. These semi-answered questions make up the bare-bones skeleton as to why I have started this podcast, and I hope it's enough to spark your interest to keep following along and reveal with me piece by piece the bigger picture I would like to achieve with everyone who participates and listens. As a Penn State student, this is where I'm starting. People from Penn State in different orgs or backgrounds, but eventually the goal is for all people of all backgrounds. Ambitious, I know. This is a platform where the storytellers are the voices that drive the topic that is being addressed, and they can steer the creative direction, topic, and message. And I'm here to facilitate and bring out the connection for listeners to identify with. Every week, I'll have a different storyteller with a different issue. The stories can be funny, serious, deeply personal, topical, sensitive, etc. And I'm sure there'll be changes in these guidelines as I gain experience with this project and it really comes to life. Also, just a heads up, I think I am in no way qualified to analyze and maybe make the comments I'm going to make based off of my experience and insights. And I think I'm going to make them anyway. It's part of the jump. And I'm also realizing how horribly monotone my voice sounds, and maybe that can be another incentive for you to stay tuned and see if that gets better or just keeps crashing and burning. Along with my main goals that I want to come across, there will be side effects, I hope. Awareness, controversy, spark discussion, self-reflection, bad comments, maybe some laughs, candidness, understanding, and that's great. I'm a firm believer that these things can strengthen our understanding of ourselves and others, and ultimately, that is the cliche I wanted to end on. Yes, we are all different. Different experiences, different lives, backgrounds, labels, perspectives, and I celebrate this. But when we strip it all away, aren't we all just humans? And doesn't that make us the same? Think about it and check out this week's story.